am so delighted to welcome Lizzie Clark today, and thank you so much for making time for sharing with us, for sharing your career and your background. And Lizzie and I were talking about how I have sort of a special interest in, well, of course, artists, but then people who have had just not unusual, but have done a variety of things and how they have gotten to where they are now. So Lizzie and I have shared some questions, and did you want to add anything to that, what I just said?
If your questions were very thorough, I'm happy to go with the list we have.
Okay, great. So, and these are just things, this is going to be seen first by my newsletter subscribers. And these are all things that I think that, or I know that they'll be interested in. So anyway, when I was reading your About You page, your About Me page, I was so struck by what an interesting background you have. And I was wondering how you sort of make the decision to go from one sort of whatever you're doing to the next, how like, is it, do you just decide something isn't right and then you try different things, do you research? I'm always curious.
Well, okay, I will speak to that. It's kind of different for each thing that I transitioned from. The museum work was just my location. I moved to a place where there wasn't a museum for me to work in, so I worked for an engineer at Virginia Tech. And then when we left Virginia Tech, I continued to work for them remotely until my husband fired me and said, you need to take classes if you need them and get a printer and be the artist that you are. And he's super supportive, and I love him for that. So I was a graphic designer for 15 years. And then I had a stroke and pardon me. And fully recovered, obviously. But in that month that I was banished from my computer and from my clients by my husband, I decided that I didn't really want to be doing that kind of work anymore. And I needed to do something because our son would be going to college before long. And he's the only child. And I worked at home so that I could be available for him. So my husband said, you really need to find something. So I started making collage art in the format of 3x5 business card sized canvases, and arranging them in frames 5 across or 1 across or 4, 2 up and 2 down, and taking them to shows. And I did all right with that. But then I decided that in order to make it to the next level of show, I needed to have my own patterns on the paper that I was using. And so that sent me down the rabbit hole of trying to find somebody to teach me how to do repeat patterns, which I found out later was the term for it. And I found the lovely Jessica Swift and Bonnie Christine. And when I took Jessica's pattern camp for a weekend and realized at the end of the weekend that I didn't have to limit myself to putting it on paper, I could put patterns on anything, that was it. I just, I veered away from doing the collage art and started trying to make a business doing pattern design. And that was about 6 years ago.
Well, it seems like one thing I always, it's almost like, I don't know if you see it this way, but like if you're sailing, tacking, you kind of go in one direction. Till to catch the wind, you need to change a little bit. And, I don't know if that resonates with you, but I sometimes think of my life kind of that way, or almost like switchbacks when I'm hiking, You want to get, you're not even sure where you want to get in the end, but you go as far as it can go this way, and then, oh, there's another path. And
exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's really good for people to hear. I hear a lot of, and I felt this way too in my um, earlier in my career that um, I kind of envision this path, this straight path, and I rarely meet people who have a few more years under their in their experience. There are often these kind of switchbacks or tacking back and forth to the next interesting thing, and then it kind of comes together somehow.
Yes, I think that makes life much more enjoyable, right? If you have different experiences and then you think, oh, maybe if I tried this, then we'll see. And until you settle on the thing that lights you up, brings you joy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And each little thing kind of then looking back, I can often see like, oh, that's why that mattered. Or
Right.
sometimes I just learn like, I never want to do that again.
Well, which is an equally valuable experience, really.
Absolutely. Ask me about my first job sometime. No, no. So anyway, one of the things that I know a lot of people in service design hope to do is something you've already accomplished, and that is to get a licensing agreement. In fact, you have, I think, at least 6, I was counting, or maybe more.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's really fabulous. I was wondering, I just was interested in the story of how that first licensing or any of the licensing agreements came about.
Well, I will share. I will share about my first one for sure. It was who I knew. I was in a Facebook group with Deanne Christensen, Jessica Swift's Facebook group from Pattern
Okay.
Camp.
Yeah.
And Deanne and I had talked about maybe doing Surtex together in 2016, and then in 2017, and then she got an opportunity to start her own fabric company.
Oh, wow.
And went to Quilt Market and did fabulously well her first time at Quilt Market. But when I got back from Surtex, she asked me if I wanted to join her company. And that was like a dream come true. So I did that. And that was my first license was with Deanne. And I had a couple of fabric lines with her before the company no longer was in existence. But the others have been a little bit more of an effort. I didn't have to, I didn't have to try with Deanne to find her, but the others have been, through my diligence or through people finding me, really. I signed a fabric license just last week for somebody that found me on Instagram and went to my website. So that's, if you're wondering about if you need a website, it helps. And the others were from the online print source shows that I did. 2 of them were from that, and then at least one of them was from the 2020 Surtex, which was the last one they had. The needlepoint canvases came out of that.
I think that's so fun. I used to do a lot of needlepoint.
Well, I'm trying to get back into it since I have canvases with my prints on them, but it's been a while and it's taking me some time to get back into it.
Well, I understand. I mean, when I used to, I mean, it was like 40 years ago. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I love it.
Same.
But, yeah, but I think that the thread that I hear is that you put yourself out there. You put yourself into, you signed up for Jessica Swift's pattern camp. You got to know people. If you hadn't done that,
Right,
you never would have met her. And I think sometimes there's a hesitancy for people to put themselves out. And, you've got your stuff on Instagram, you have a website, and that's how people get found. And oftentimes there's pitching involved too, but yay for you. I think that's
I'm happy with what has happened so far, and we'll see where it takes me.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. And I know that I have people in the group who would like to be licensed. And I think that it's really, it's great to hear success stories. So, well, let's see. So for licensing, you would have beautiful patterns. So that's going to transition to this next question, which is, where do you find where you like to go for your inspiration? And how do you, something I think some artists, it's good for all of us to be reminded is that we have to fill our creative well too. We can't just like work all the time. So I'm just curious where you find your inspiration and how you like to recharge your creativity.
Okay. Inspiration is mostly nature based for me. Although I do love a good design book, and exploring some of the patterns. I can't remember her name right this minute, but I just discovered a Scandinavian designer that I'm really drawn to. And so I enjoy looking at those kinds of books, not to implant it in my brain so that it's copied, but just to kind of give me a sense of, oh, if I did this with my pattern, then that would,
Yeah.
and that's what I do. I look at nature, I look at books, I look at the colors in nature, and if it wasn't clear at the beginning, I am a self-taught artist. I did not take any art classes. Well, that's not true. I took a couple of art classes, but I do not have an art degree by any stretch of the imagination. So I love going to museums. I love reading books. I love walking in nature. And that's where I find my inspiration. The recharging part is a little bit more difficult for me because it's so much fun that I find that I am working 7 days a week. It doesn't feel like work to me. And then after a while, I realize that I am tired and not feeling as creative. And then I need to just unplug from my computer and my iPad. I love going to State College, where we have a house that we're going to move to later in the year, and plan the house renovations, and I read books and I watch movies, and I love a good couch day.
Yeah, no, it's all wonderful. And I love for people to hear that you do, you don't need to go to art school. You don't need to have an art degree. That sometimes, I mean, I did, but sometimes I think it got in the way, because you're like trying to be, also serious about things. And I mean, it was a long time ago that I did it. And then finally, or you remember some critique, and then finally it's just like, you know what, just, I need to move on. So I think it's really good for people to hear. I know Bonnie Christine studied business, that, it's observation and practice and taking in things and then putting it out through your lens. So, and I do understand, it's like, I love to go in nature for my work, but it also recharges me. So I totally get what you mean. So, and I have a senior in high school, so I'll be in your boat quite soon.
Yes, well, mine's now a 25-year-old on Sunday. So
Oh, okay.
So there's lots of fun to come.
Yeah, okay. You can keep me posted. So, with your and that's your beautiful work behind you, I can tell. And what are
Yes,
you,
it's hiding my cluttered shelves.
I think that's okay. That's so smart. What are you really excited about your work right now? I mean, it sounds like you just signed a licensing deal. Is there something, a collection you're working on, or?
Well, I appreciate the question. I have kind of a three-legged stool that I work for, how I generate income.
Mhm.
One is through my licensing. One is through buyouts or flat fee licenses.
Okay.
And the third is through my website and my shop. And really the intention of the shop is to draw attention to the products that I think my patterns would look good on, and in the hopes that a licensor will see one of my products and think, oh, who's, maybe I need this on my product, and come seek me out. So I have a product line that's going to be launching this spring, and these are part of it. This is also part of it.
Oh, nice.
This is a little trinket tray or hors d'oeuvre tray. This is a notepad.
Oh, I love that.
And I'm going to have some canvas zippered bags, and maybe a medium-sized grocery tote.
Great.
I have a set of folded cards. So all based on this same color palette and these patterns that you're seeing.
Yeah.
And I find that I really like the product development aspect of it. I don't think I'm ready to be a wholesaler. I don't currently have the space for that in our apartment. But when I move, I might decide to do some wholesaling. But for now, I'm just using my newsletter and Instagram to advertise and let people know that I have these available, and hopefully other people will love them as much as I do.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's so smart. And I had never really thought about using a shop as a way, because I think sometimes when we create something, we realize, oh, it could be like all these different things, but not everybody, they might not see all the potential. So putting things on products and having them in your shop, and you have a wonderful shop. So that is, and we'll get all that information at the end. So, well, that's all very exciting, and a lot to look forward to. So let's see. Okay. Oh, I know. I think I get asked this a lot, and you probably do too. And I know my newsletter subscribers are always asking for behind the scenes. So whatever amount of your process that you would feel comfortable sharing, I know they would love to know how if you work with ink, or if it's digital, or how you create your patterns.
Sure. I either use my iPad or pencil and paper. Okay. Primarily. I am starting to branch out and try some block printing.
Oh, fun.
Which I'm looking forward to once I have more space, so that I don't have to use my dining table for block printing. But I really just sketch either in my sketchbook or my iPad, and I often sketch in black and white initially, and then add color either on the iPad or after I have exported it into Illustrator. If I'm doing pencil and paper, I never add, well, I shouldn't say never. My process is usually to just scan that in and then add the color afterwards. I use Adobe Fresco for my iPad sketching. I was having a conversation with somebody on Instagram today, and they were asking about Procreate, which is a fabulous program. I just feel like for my style, Fresco is a better fit. It lets me do the bold graphics and flat art that I like, and doesn't distract me with all of the bells and whistles that Procreate has. And then I think, oh, that'd be fun to learn. Let me try that. It's like,
I know. I know.
So, oh, look, a squirrel. The struggle is real. But that's really how I work. I usually use the iPad, less the sketchbook recently, just for convenience. and I sketch in Fresco, and then Fresco lets you export to Illustrator.
Okay, great. And did you teach yourself Adobe Fresco? I've heard good things about it, but
I did. I mean, teach is a loose term. I think that there's probably more that it could do for me if I would just take a little bit of time to learn all of the features that it offers, but it does what I needed to. I can make it work.
if you can get what you need out of it with what you have, then I think you're, because you're right, there's always, and then those amazing computer developers are always coming up with new things too. And I'm like, wait, I just figured this out. But I have heard great things. I've never tried Adobe Fresco. I'm kind of, trying to learn Procreate, but so I've done a little sketching, but it's kind of fun to try these different things. So, well, when you are at your new house, you will be able to spread out and try the block printing and all those other things. But it's great that you can do so much with, on a computer, and you don't need a place where you can draw paint or that sort of thing. So.
Well, and that's one of the great things about this profession is that it's so incredibly portable.
Yeah.
Which is genius for me.
Yeah, the summer, I think that first summer with COVID, we were up in Wisconsin at a house we have there, and I just took my laptop and like a little thing of pencils and some paper, and it worked fine. And with what I used to do, no, it would not have worked. So yeah, that is really nice. That's a good point. So let's see. Oh, I think we may have talked about this, but if there's anything else, I said, kind of what are you looking forward to in the rest of 2022? And it's, is there anything, you told us about these wonderful products and things that are coming out. Is there anything else that you're in your move?
Yeah, well, the move is something I'm looking forward to a lot, because I will have an actual studio space in the new house. And it's an open space on the second floor with a loft. It looks down into the living room, and there's a 2-story screened-in porch off the rear of the house, and the second story of the screened-in porch opens off of my studio. So I'm just going to be in heaven. And I'm, we're doing some renovations to make it more livable when we get there in August. But that's going to be a nice change and a huge upgrade for both me and my husband. My husband's a stained glass artist, and he will have the entire basement for his studio.
Oh, wow.
And he's currently working in a 6-by-8-foot cage in the base parking garage of our apartment building.
You're both, it's going to be so glorious for both of you, and it'll be fun with both of you being creatives. It's going to be fun to work on the house. You'll have all these great ideas, and yeah, we live in a 100-year-old house, but we didn't do all the renovating beforehand. So, but we're
well,
it's always something. But it's fun. I love the charm and the character. I'm always drawn in by like the arch bookcases or the cool doorknobs, or yeah, it'll be. I hope you post lots of pictures on your Instagram.
Oh, well, thank you. I am planning to do something. I haven't figured out if I'm going to do an actual blog and have a different Instagram account. That's probably what I'm going to do, is have a second Instagram account and then post things on that, so that I can keep things separate and fun.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun to see, and it'll inspire me on some of those things that I should be doing here. So you did talk a little bit about the products and services that you are offering, and that was one of my things I wanted to ask you about. And so the new line of things, are those the things that you're most excited about, or
Well, every time I make a new line, I'm excited. I'm most excited
Yeah, of
about that.
course, of course.
But you know, I love the products that I've made the past 2 years. I've only been making products since the summer of 2020, when I took
Wow.
Stacy Bloomfield's Leverage Your Art.
That's an amazing class, isn't it? Or course?
Yes, I learned so much from that class. Gave me the confidence to create my own products and stand up my shop on my website. Um, so and I'm looking forward to I'm working part-time with an agent, and she's helping me prep some pitches for specific companies that I'm interested in. Hopefully something will happen with those later this year. And I love drawing, and I haven't been doing as much drawing while I've been doing all of this product process business. So I want to get back to doing some actual art making.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And sometimes it's almost cyclical, like you're working on one thing and yeah, kind of get back to it. But, and I noticed, I mean, you have beautiful holiday things on your, I mean, you just have a real breadth of beautiful products that
Well, that's
you,
kind of you to say.
yeah, no, but it's true.
Well, you know, it's I find it odd. I am not a big holiday pattern person. I don't, you know, I make something if I'm inspired,
Yeah.
but I am not able to sit down and just turn out the Christmas patterns the way many people can. And I think that I have finally come to terms with that. You know, it's, you know, I'm in my lane. I'm sticking to my lane. I'm just driving down the middle of my lane and not going to be distracted by all of the fun things I could be doing, but would not be adding to my brand.
You know, I understand. I kind of came to that realization with hand lettering. You know, it's great, but I mean, you know, but maybe there are other things I enjoy more. You know, when people do great hand lettering, it's a wonderful thing to add. But I think I'd have to do it maybe on the side quietly and not show anybody for a couple of years before yeah. So I totally get, but that's like great information too, to
It
know
is.
like, okay, I tried it. I mean, I really did like the holiday things you had, but you could just like, okay, I tried it and okay, I did it. And now back to the other. So yeah, I totally get that. So, this is kind of just a fun thing, and I think I have an idea, but everybody always loves to know what artists or individual, you know, designers, what do you like to do in your free time?
Well, I mentioned previously that I don't
Yeah.
I don't make a lot of free time for myself.
Yeah.
But when I do, I'm enjoying spending as much time as I can with our son while we are still living close together. You know, we have board game afternoons with Riley and his girlfriend, and we go out to eat. And I find that I like figuring out new products to create in my free time. I like playing with my supplies and just figuring out, well, what could I do with that? And could it be, you know, my brand is about functional art. So everything that I do has to have function to it. I'm not about making, which I'm not opposed to. I'm not about making art that doesn't really have a function. And there are so many things that you can make that are functional and beautiful at the same time. And I feel like the world needs more beautiful function. So
I think that's wonderful. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over.
no.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's wonderful, and it really it really helps you kind of hone in on what you want to do. too, because it does need to resonate with you and it does need to feel important, or you're at the place where you can. I've met designers who, well, I had to do this XYZ for this client because that's who I work for, but you can make those choices now and say the things that I'm going to design. And I kind of feel the same way about exercise. I'm always asking the trainer, is this functional exercise? Like, it's gonna help me hike up the Grand Canyon, you know? But no, I think that's a great mission and way. And I totally understand that is, you love what you're doing. So of course you want to do that. And we're big board game fans too. So. Now I did mention to my Flourish peer group, and I've just got two. I know you're, I don't want to keep you, but two questions that my peer group came up with. And just for the people listening who, Flourish is Bonnie Christine's membership that she opens up, I guess, maybe twice a year. And so we've stayed together for 2 years because we like each other so much. But
That's
anyway,
fabulous.
yeah, it's really wonderful. They were wondering, there are 4 of us, but the other 3 were wondering, what advice or guidance would you give to someone who's just coming up, a new designer, no matter their age, you know, they're new to design. And the question often is, where should I put my energy? There are, should it be making art? Should I do it? You know, I'm sure you remember how there's like a zillion different things. And with your experience and hindsight, or whatever you want to draw on, where do you think new designers should put their energy, and what advice?
It's a good question, and it's a tough question sometimes. But I have gotten excellent advice from people that have been in the business much longer than I have. And they tell me essentially 3 things. You need to keep showing up. You need to realize that no is not personal and doesn't even mean no forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you just need to you need to pick your lane and just kind of go with it, and be consistent. It's a long game. It is without a doubt the longest game that I have ever played. And if you can, and it may take you a while to figure out what your lane is, you know, I mean, what your style is and where you want your art to be and how you want it to be out in the world. And that's okay. You know, as Bonnie says, there is room for you. There's room for everybody. And if you give yourself time to figure that out and not rush to trying to necessarily get a license right away, I think that serves you well in terms of your growth and your place in the profession. If you just be true to yourself.
That is such wonderful guidance and advice, really. I was listening to it, and I think that that's good too, even for people who've been in doing this for a while, to go back and hear it, to remind yourself that it is a long game and you do need to be true to yourself. I mean, everything you've said is just so spot on, and thank you for that. Then their other question was, where do you think the design world is heading? And you could pick anything.
Okay, well, I have a couple of thoughts on this. So the first is that I'm super encouraged at how I'm finding artists are pushing manufacturers to make products that are more sustainable and environmentally friendly. There's a group that I belong to, the ABA, and we've got a whole group just dedicated to that specific topic of environmental sustainability and making sure that the products that we are producing, if they're not that they're not taking away from the environment, that they're not causing harm. So that's one thing that I think is going to continue to be important, and that we'll see more products and manufacturers that are hearing that and figuring out a way to make things that are beautiful, sustainable, functional, and friendly to the environment. The other thought that I had is not really related. It's the impact that COVID has had on in-person shows. And I will not be at all surprised if there's a swing back to only in-person shows next year. And I think that in a year or two, that will maybe settle down, and there will be a hybrid model of having a show that's in person and a show that's virtual. The virtual shows are budget friendly. It's friendly for the artist's time and the buyer's time. They don't have to, travel. They don't have to. There's lots of positive things about virtual shows, and I miss the in-person contact. I mean, it's you get a different experience being at Surtex or Blueprint or Print Source live than you do virtual. So I think that Surtex is planning to come back in person next year. I think that there will be other shows that come back next year in person, and I think some may decide to stay online. And I think that that's a good thing. It makes it more accessible. Virtual shows make it more accessible for people who might live in a different country and don't want to have to travel to the United States to be seen. And it gives everybody a little bit more breathing space around, you can have your art available 24/7 online, and people can look at it and see it, and maybe you'll make a sale or get a license. And I think that that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that that's a really, and that's something I hadn't really thought about, but I think that's a really, really good observation. And there is something about that in person, but it does open it up, those online. And I bet you're right. I bet there will be a hybrid.
Well, I certainly hope so. I'm itching to go back to Surtex, but it's, I love that. I loved having the Print Source shows online last year, and did pretty well with those. So, and I hope that people will hear this. There's no one right show to go to. You need to. It's really where you feel comfortable. Print Source and Blueprint are smaller shows in general. They have been smaller than Surtex. We'll see what happens with Surtex in the new year, but there's tables, and they've got pop-up banners, and you can sit in here and you can chat with all the other artists, and then you can hear their conversations with their buyers. Surtex has been a little bit more private, that they've got hard walls, and people can actually come into the space and be surrounded by only one person's art, and not have the visual distraction of looking left or right and seeing other art, then lose their focus of the conversation with the artist that they're sitting with. But look around and find the show that speaks to you, and give it a try.
That's great advice. And would you recommend people going just once as an observer rather than getting a booth right off? Because they're pretty expensive, aren't they?
Well, Surtex has been in the past the most expensive show in the United States.
Yeah.
I don't know about Heim Textile or I can't remember the Paris show's name, but and yes, I would recommend walking the shows. I walked Surtex in 2016 prior to doing it in 2017. Here's a little pro tip. I paid the $500 fee to walk the show. If you know a designer who's going to be at the show at Surtex, you can offer to help them in exchange for one of their free passes.
That is so smart. Plus, you kind of get the inside scoop then too, and see how booth is set up, and all that. That's a great idea. And is that at the Javits Center?
It was in the Javits Center up until 2020. I believe, don't quote me on this,
Okay.
that they are planning a venue switch.
Okay.
So still in New York,
Yeah.
and maybe not at the Javits.
Yeah, well, and an opportunity to go to New York is I love being out in the country and nature, but I also love an adventure, a city adventure. I mean, we live west of Chicago, so for a reason. It's not the weather. So, oh, and then where can we find you online? Is that, I will put a final slide, I think, with all the information, but if you just want to tell us, and then, I'll confirm everything before I put it on the slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I really have only two places that I'm sending people these days. My website is LizzieClarkDesigns.com.
Yeah.
And my Instagram feed is Lizzie Clark Designs.
Excellent. This has just been fabulous. And is there anything else you wanted to add before I?
Let me just consult my notes and see if,
I do want to.
no, I think we've covered it.
It has been so informative and really a real pleasure to talk to you. I mean, I've really enjoyed it thoroughly. Well, thanks so much, Lizzie. I don't want to take you.
You're welcome, Betsy. I appreciate the ask, and thanks for conducting such a nice interview. And I wish you much success with your endeavors.